Okay, here we are. This is the rundown, our very, very first episode. My name's Steve Adams. I'm the host, and here's my co-host, Annabel Velasquez. Got it right. God. So, let me explain to you a little bit about what this show is going to cover. We are all about keeping kids safe from people that want to commit crimes against them, sex trafficking, abductions, molestations, any other crimes against kids. You know, the unfortunate thing about this is it happens every day in the United States. You can turn on your television, your radio, social media, and you're going to see it. You're going to see a missing kid, somebody that's involved in human trafficking, sex trafficking for our young adults and our kids. And it's horrible because our kids should be out there having fun, enjoying their life, enjoy going to school, walking home without any concerns, walking to the school or to the store, just all the fun things that you should be able to do as a kid and not have to worry about being abducted, being forced into sex trafficking. We're going to be talking to victims of sex trafficking and other crimes. When they were a kid, they're now adults. We want to hear their story. We want to know what they went through, if they're willing to talk to us. And believe it or not, there are thousands of people out there that want to talk to us. I currently have a list, and I know Annabel has one as well, of people that want to talk to us, victims that want to talk to us. The reason why, they want to get out their information on what happened to them, what they went through, and how possibly we can help avoid another child being victimized. They have the information that we need. They've been through it. So we want to hear from them. We're also talking, believe it or not, we're going into the prisons and we're talking to inmates who have been convicted of these crimes. Like I said, molestations, abductions, sex trafficking. We want to hear from them. Several reasons why. Why did you pick this child? Why did you pick a male over a female? Why did you pick the age that you picked? And a lot of different variables that we're looking at. We want to get it straight from the horse's mouth. Why did you select the kid that you selected? We want to hear it from you. We're going to be interviewing law enforcement from all over the United States. And believe it or not, I was just contacted by a representative from Interpol that wants to talk to us as well. So the list is growing really large. We're going to talk to we've already talked to law enforcement officers in our area, the Sacramento, Placer County area, and that went real well. And we actually started working on this project about a year ago, and we finished filming in August, I believe it was, of this year, and we're waiting for a network to pick us up and get this information out there even more widely. So when I said we're going to be talking to victims today, believe it or not, Annabel is one of the first victims that responded to an email. I think it was an email that I put out looking for people that could come forward like we're talking about now, give us a story. And she's got an amazing story that'll it's going to break your heart, but at the same time, it's going to justify why we're doing what we're doing.
Right. The reason why I decided to come forward was because a lot of folks still feel shame about things that they've gone through. And truly, the shame lies on the pedophiles and the perpetrators themselves. And so we're trying to change the stigma. We're trying to spread awareness on trying to keep kids safe. And basically, we want kids to have a childhood at this point. And they shouldn't have to worry about somebody inappropriately touching them, trying to fend for themselves, trying to survive the environment that they're in. So we want to help provide a safe environment for them.
So when you were going through this has been almost 10 years ago now, right? And it involved two of your kids, two or three of them?
Three.
All three. And the person that did this to your kids is your now ex-husband, correct?
Yeah.
And he's in prison.
Yes, thankfully.
So when you were going through this process about, getting this guy into custody, all the evidence that you had to bring forward, all the witnesses that you had to bring forward, everything you had to bring forward, you finally got this guy to go to trial. once you got him to go to trial, but he pled out, correct?
No. So actually, the DA's office approached me with a plea deal.
Okay.
Based on the evidence that we had, we knew that he was going to get convicted. But the reason why I decided to accept the plea bargain that the DA was offering was because we didn't want the kids to have to go through and face their accusers, because with the judicial system, they're supposed to be able to face their accusers, and in this instance I didn't want them to have to relive anything ever again.
So how long was he sentenced? What was the sentencing?
30 years and 8 months.
And he's eligible for parole when?
He's eligible for parole in 2023, but right now we're fighting it.
That's a very good point. These guys that commit these crimes, and not just guys, women too, but they commit these crimes, and instead of getting, a harsh sentence, 2.5, 3.5 years, sometimes 10 years maybe, but you're sentenced to 34 years in prison, and you might do 10. Something's wrong with that picture.
Yeah.
I mean, something's definitely wrong with that picture, especially when the person that committed this crime is still trying to contact you or had previously tried to contact you or your kids.
Correct.
And, that should never be allowed to happen.
No.
It's just going to traumatize the kids even more.
Every single instance. Yeah.
It traumatizes you every time you hear from one of his relatives, how the kid's doing. He wants to know how your kids are doing, or any of that information.
Anything that has to do with him, it lights not just the fire inside, because I really do want to make sure that people like him don't come out, and I want to take everything that I went through. I keep saying this, that I can't speak on behalf of my kids because they were the true victims, but what I can bring forth is the wife of a perpetrator and the tactics that they used, and the verbiage, and even like their ploys and all of that. I know it sounds disgusting, but like, if I could help another family realize the signs and actually see the signs that I totally missed, if it can help another family, then I'm all for it.
Exactly. You talk about missing signs. My daughter, when she was, I think, 8 or 9 years old, somewhere around there, was victimized.
Right.
And at the time, I was a sergeant in charge of investigations. I missed the signs. And I've kicked myself in the butt probably every day since that happened, because I know what she went through.
For sure.
I know, it's probably still on her mind. Maybe not as bad as it was back then, but somewhere in the psyche, something like that doesn't go away.
Right.
It's always going to be there. It's how we process it and where we put it in our mind. Simple things can ignite that situation. It could be a smell. It could be a
trigger,
touching you.
some kind of trigger.
There's always some type of trigger that's going to make that situation come back to you.
Mm-hmm.
Has that ever happened?
Yeah, there's a lot of things that happen, and actually there's a lot of things that I've blocked out in my mind for good reason. I mean, the mind is just pretty crazy what it'll do to protect you from the trauma that you've actually experienced. But I honestly don't remember a lot of things of him and I being married. So I can remember all of the games he used to play, but like being happy, I don't remember any of that. Yeah. I don't. It was more of a survival of being married to him, because he never did anything. But anytime that he did want to do something together as a family, there was just these odd tactics that he would use, and it would be weird, when I think about it. But being like a family, I don't remember those kinds of things.
Yeah.
Probably because it didn't really happen.
Yeah. Yeah, like you said, the mind can play a lot of games, and not necessarily tricks, but the psyche's got a way of hiding things and putting things in the back of the head
to protect you.
To protect you,
mm-hmm.
and to make sure that you try not to relive that over and over and over.
Right.
So what are you going to do when the day comes up that he's supposed to be paroled?
I'm going to make sure that he doesn't get out. I'm going to make sure. I want everybody to understand what they're trying to get him out right now on it's what we call the Youthful Offender Act. And basically the notion is that if they committed any kind of crimes, it's not necessarily just, what is it? Crimes against kids. It's crimes in general. If you've been convicted or if you did anything but before you turned 26, the notion is that you weren't mature enough to make those decisions. And it's like, once you're a pedophile, you're always a pedophile. You're sick. You're always sick. There's no doubt about that. I mean, other crimes I can see totally that, that you can outgrow. Like, I was a teenager once and I did stupid things, and I won't do those again. Yeah, but I would never molest a child. Right. I would never touch a child inappropriately. I would never put myself in a situation like that, like on purpose, or right. Even, and it sucks that you have to watch that, and that's just the way of life right now. But there's just so many people that are doing these kinds of things to kids and, taking the innocence of children, and that's what I want to fight against. But going back to what you were saying about him getting out, I'm doing everything that we can to make sure, and this television show is just that. It was just answered. It's an answer to my prayers, basically.
And that's what we want, nationwide, globally.
Yeah.
We want victims and parents to know they have a voice.
Right.
And they have that voice, and the more that come together, the louder that voice is going to be, and the better chances we have of stopping this. Are we going to stop it? I've been told no. But we can dramatically reduce the number of kids that are being offended. And I've always said, if we can stop just one mm-hmm. of these monsters from hurting another child, we've done our job.
Right. I believe so. I
founded the National Center for Child Safety and Awareness almost 20 years ago. And over that 20 years, we've worked with more than 500,000 kids and parents nationwide. And, I've got several success stories where, kids have been able to get away from an attempted abduction, and they're home safe now with their parents. Well, either grown now or home with their parents. So the point is, what we teach kids in a fun, positive way how to avoid becoming the victim of an abduction, sex trafficking, and other crimes against kids. And that's what we always talk about, other crimes against kids, because there's a lot of them out there. There's approximately 2,200 kids missing every day in the United States. 2,200 kids.
That's a lot.
That's the kids that have been put into the NCIC database through the law enforcement agencies. Those are the kids that we know about. How many that we don't know about? How many of them just leave the house? They run away for one reason or another. They're not getting along with mom and dad. They're having a bad day at school. They're afraid to tell mom and dad, and they leave. They run away. Guess where a sex trafficking pimp is going to get their victim? Probably from a runaway. Why? Because they're vulnerable. These kids think, okay, this guy's going to give me a place to stay. This woman's going to get me clothing, what I need right now, going to get me food, going to get me, who knows, maybe drugs. We don't know what these people are offering these kids to get them into the sex trafficking trade, but we know once they get in there, it's nearly impossible to get out and get them out of this situation. So we want to do everything we can to stop that. So when we tell, in my seminars, when I do school assemblies, I teach kids, okay, if somebody comes up to you and they have a puppy, it's the old story, the puppy, the candy, and all that. You know what? It still works, people.
It does.
Believe it or not, it still works. People ask me, well, is this worse now than it was, many, many years ago? I don't necessarily think it's worse. I think there's just more people now, obviously, in the United States and in the world. This was such a prevalent problem, child abductions, crimes against kids, that in 1947 in California they enacted the sex offender registration program. So if you're convicted of a sex crime, you are now a registered sex offender. So it's been going on at least since 1947. And I think the case that really brought it to a head was Adam Walsh in July 27th, 1981, out of a Sears, Hollywood, Florida. And John Walsh and his wife Reve, they took that very, very horrible situation and came up with the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. They've saved thousands of kids, worldwide. John was the host of America's Most Wanted for I think 24 years, 24 seasons, with over 1,400 captures. So, out of that came a really, really positive situation where all these, bad guys are in custody now. So, what we're trying to do is still continue to bring these guys into custody.
Mm-hmm.
So, what we're doing today is pretty much really the basics of getting this off the ground and letting you know that there's going to be a lot more that we're going to be doing. We're going to be profiling non-compliant registered sex offenders. In the last week, I've had 5 different cases where a non-compliant registered sex offender has reoffended and hurt another child, and in a couple cases killed the child. So, that's what we're here to stop. These non-compliant registered sex offenders, we know they're out there.
Yeah.
And our goal is to profile them. So you're going to see pictures of these people. You're going to get the background of them, what they did, where their crime was committed, the victim. You're going to get all that information so you can help us keep an eye out for this person.
Right.
And if you do see them, if you do know where they're at, if you do have information about this person, please do the right thing and give us a call. Call 911 or call the local agency that's involved in this case. We're going to be profiling missing kids. And I don't care if it's a runaway, high-risk runaway, or at-risk runaway. Every missing kid's important. Okay?
Yeah.
Every missing kid. And we're going to do everything we can to profile every one of them. People that have committed crimes against kids, they're out there all the time, every day. Like I said, we hear about these cases every day. And we want to help law enforcement. We want to profile these people that have committed these crimes against these kids. Again, get their face out there in the public. Make them known nationwide so they can't go anywhere without somebody saying, hey, I think that's the guy we saw on that show. Let's call 911.
Right.
Let's do what we have to do, to make sure this guy doesn't go anywhere. And, that's all we have to do. Everybody working together, watch this show, learn about who's out there committing these crimes. And I tell you, it's going to dramatically reduce these crimes. Talking to law enforcement, they help out a lot with us,
Yeah.
And, we interviewed a sheriff just recently, in Placer County, Devin Bell. He's amazing. He's behind what we do 100%.
Yes.
Anything that he can do to help, his agency to help, which they've already been involved in what we've done. So we're really excited. We want more agencies to be involved in what we do, because the more agencies, the more kids are going to be safe, the more bad guys are going to be behind bars.
Right.
So I've talked a lot. I'm going to give you a chance. What do you have to say?
We want the system to work for these families in the same way that it worked for me. You hear so many terrible things about the justice system not working, and there are a lot of loopholes that these predators and these monsters are able to get through. But the more that we educate, the more that we spread awareness, the less that they're likely to be able to get through these loopholes. So we're working with all of these agencies to help close that gap and to be able to speak on behalf of these kids, and again, let the system work for them the way that it's meant to.
As a victim, if a mom comes to you and discusses some things that might be happening with their child, what advice would you give them?
Act on it. Don't put any of these excuses that they are bound to give you. It wasn't that bad, or it wasn't. It's not what you think, or anything to that effect. Listen to your child. Listen to your child, and be very open and willing. The best thing to do too is to remain calm. A lot of the times they base their reaction based on how we react as well. So if we all freak out and just be like, just go crazy, even though you want to, and it's valid, to feel that way. I just went numb, but I went crazy, literally. I didn't eat for 9 days. I lost so much weight. I couldn't sleep, but I had a lot of people that were helping us. So it's not something that I went through by myself.
Right.
But if I could give anybody any kind of advice, is to listen to your child. Listen loud and clear.
And remember, you know your child. I miss the signs, and I kick myself in the butt every day. But we know our kids. We know when they're not acting right. We know how they normally act. We know how they normally thrive in school. And if things change all of a sudden, they're not doing well in school. They're being very they're in their room all the time, just pretty much hibernating. They don't want to have anything to do with the family. That's a problem. We need to get it checked out, find out what's going on, because there's something going on if that's not the norm for that kid. You just, like Annabelle said, please just listen to your kid. If they're telling you something's going on, don't brush it off like,
right.
I doubt if they would do that. I don't think that would happen. Maybe you misunderstood it. Don't do that. The kids are coming to you for a reason. You're their parent. And if they don't have you to count on, they have nobody else. So please, take it and run with it. And do everything you can to investigate this, get the law enforcement involved. And if it's not true, okay, it's not true. Then you deal with that situation. But take everything at its word right now. And I know you won't be sorry if you do that.
Well, the amount of guilt that I feel for not knowing is tremendous. But the amount of guilt that a parent will feel if they brush it aside and allow that to continue to happen,
yes.
God help them, because the amount of guilt that I feel every day is something that will never go away.
Yeah. And I had a case like that a couple years ago. I was working with a local sheriff's department here in our area, and the mom would drop her 3-year-old son and 5-year-old son off at Grandma and Grandpa's house every morning before she went to work. And Grandpa would end up taking him downstairs into the basement and spend much of the morning down there. Grandma was upstairs, and found out that he was molesting both kids down there. And what the older son told Mom, and she said, Grandpa wouldn't do that to you. That's not who your grandpa is. So you must have misunderstood, or you're lying to me. And those were the words she used. You're lying to me. Do you think that kid's going to trust his mom anymore?
Or any adult, for that matter.
Adult. Correct, exactly. You've just taken that child's safe haven away and totally destroyed his trust in his mom. There was no dad in the picture. But, there was an investigation done, and the only reason that was found out is because the little guy, when he started, or the 5-year-old, when he started kindergarten, that was brought up. And now law enforcement, CPS, is involved. And Mom had to live with that for quite a long time, knowing that this was happening to her sons, and she did nothing about it. She did nothing to try and stop it.
If anything, she was she's an accomplice to it.
Enabler.
Yeah. And I don't think that anybody wants to feel that way.
No. And I don't think it wasn't her mom and dad. It was the biological dad's mom and dad. So, but that really doesn't make a difference. It still is what it is. This guy.
It's an adult that they trusted.
Still hurt two kids, and it was an adult that was trusted by the family, and it's a horrible situation. So, but we are pretty excited of what this show was going to bring to everybody, and I'm going to get ready to wrap it up here. But I just want you to know that the National, or not the National Center, that's my other organization. The Rundown is a show dedicated to tackling dangerous child predators nationwide. But some dangers, live right here in our own backyard, and that's here in the United States. So as a parent, you can't always keep tabs on what kids are up to every minute of the day. And despite your efforts, to leave your kids in the hands of a trusted caretaker or whoever, like that grandfather and grandmother we were talking about, unfortunately, kids often, or most often, a child predator is someone that you trust, that you don't think you have a problem with, and it's not the way it always ends up.
It's important to have that conversation with your kids about sex and sex trafficking, molestations, abductions, and other crimes that are happening against these kids, and to make sure that they know how to recognize and respond in any situation that makes them in any type of way feel uncomfortable. And so talk to your kids about the inappropriate touching, and make sure that they have the right to be able to say no. And if they sense anything is wrong, to tell a trusted adult.
These are very tough conversations to have. But we have to have them with our kids. And I encourage everybody to go to our website, www.protecttherkids.org. There's more resources there. You can get a lot more information there on what we do and why we do it. And we just encourage you to think about this show now. We've got it out there. This is our first one, and it's the real basics of what we're going to be doing. But the reason we did this is because to let you know this is coming, and there's going to be a lot more information coming out. We're already getting ready to schedule, like I said, some people to come in and interview with us, and I don't want you to miss that, because you're going to learn a lot. So thanks for joining us, and be safe out there. And please remember, do the right thing. If you see somebody that's being abducted, molested, you know about it, you've heard about it, do the right thing and make that call. It's going to save a child.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.